We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning is Nashville's Vice Mayor. That would be Jim Shulman. We can take calls or questions if you'd like, 737-7587. Now, you were reelected. Congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, from this point forward, now as we sit here, we're looking at this mayor's race still, okay? It's come down to it now, and it's going to be between these two. Voter turnout and all that. I'm just wondering, during this time slot, while we wait to see this, what are your thoughts on it as this goes forward? I mean, you don't really endorse anyone, right? I mean, you sit back and watch this go as vice mayor. You're not beholden to, you're elected in your own right, so you're not beholden to either mayor or whoever it is. You think on your own, but you have to work with them.
Right. So you don't, doesn't make any sense to endorse either one because one of the two is going to be elected.
Sure.
And you got to have to work with either one. So what you try to do is just to be helpful to both sides. If there's something going on in the council and either candidate wants to know something, I'm certainly happy to be helpful. You know, when you have to put up political yard signs, and one of these days we'll get this thing fixed, but you put them at the polling sites.
Yeah.
We did both candidates last time.
Yeah, is that what you do? Yeah,
well, because you just, you know, we were going out to a certain area and they said, "Can we be helpful?" And it's like, sure.
Yeah.
It's like, so you know, you try to be helpful without doing anything that would be harmful to either candidate.
Yeah, and at the same time, maybe harm potentially your working relationship with one if you were to come out and endorse one or the other. And I guess you do. I assume you know both men and you respect them both.
Yeah, I've known David Brawley. I served on the council with David long time ago, and he was the vice mayor when I was at large. And I've known John Cooper for a long time, and I've served on the council with him. So I respect both, and you know, I wish both of them good luck. And I would say the election September the 12th.
Yeah.
We have a series of races going on, district council races that also, you know, are going to be on the ballot, and we have 8 at large running for 4 seats.
Yeah.
We really do want people to pay attention to this.
They won't.
You're so positive.
Well, no, I mean, voter turnout, okay, and you're absolutely right. And if you care about this city, at-large seats, very important. 8 people running for 4 seats. I mean, that's, and everyone votes on those, right?
So we're having a forum. So you're talking about, do I sit back during this period of time? Good. It's like, well, no, not exactly. I'm trying to make sure I know the new council members and get them ready. Looking forward to the next 4 years, figure out, make sure we get everything in place so we're ready to go. In October, we won't have any meetings in September. We have a council meeting next Tuesday, which will be the last one of this term, so we have to get ready for that. But we're also in the middle of an election. And so the idea is, how do you figure out how to make sure the mayorals will, you know, they will certainly get their message out.
Yeah.
But people have to remember there are at-large races, and then again there are certain district council races. How do you get people engaged and understand who these people are? So we're having a forum on not this Sunday but the next Sunday, which is I think the 25th, at the farmers market at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Where we've invited the 8 at-large that are running, so people can come down and just listen.
Yeah,
and
maybe have an ice cream at Jenny's.
Well, whatever is open. I'm not sure what's going to be open, but I think the
farmers markets had all kinds of good stuff.
Well, so I'm not sure if the vendors will be there, but we're going to have food there as well. But we really do want people to come and just listen. Now, go back to your initial thoughts. How do you get people to engage?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a bunch of issues. People, and we're getting calls now, they're going to bring things up, our next 2 callers, that are important to them about the city. There's no better way, I think, to try to get your agenda going than to vote for a candidate that sees things your way. And people are complaining about stuff or praising stuff in this city every single day. They're engaged. They know. They see what's going on, and yet they don't turn out to vote on the people that make these decisions.
So I don't know how to get people to,
That's the age-old question for all races.
Right.
Unless there's a presidential race where, you know, it just gets so big, people go out.
Well, but then people, you know, we talk about, I mean, this country has been through a series of wars over the ability to stay free, and that voting right is such an important thing.
People now, it's just not the same. There's so many countries that, you know, look at us and would love to have the right to vote, and not have some despot in charge and all of that. The kids these days, even us, it's like you take it for granted, this voting thing, and it's so far removed from when it really meant something. You know, we're coming up on 100 years of suffrage.
Right.
That's a big deal. And Nashville, as you know, and the state of Tennessee played a huge role in getting the right to vote there, and that's coming up. You would think maybe people would remember there was only 100 years ago. Only 100 years ago. Couldn't vote.
So I know that Congressman Cooper and Senator Dickerson have been working on engaging high school, like particularly seniors in high school, to come out and register to vote. You know, I was just thinking as you were talking, I mean, what if we put forth a real serious effort over the next couple of years? And I know people have voter fatigue because we've had a number of elections. But ever heard of La Crosse, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're known for advance directives. Like 94% of their population has an advance directive. They just decided that was something important.
What do you mean advance directive?
Like a living will.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you meant with regard to politics. Oh, so that
I'm switching over.
There. So they promoted this.
They picked something they thought was important.
And
they went
that's actually smart to have a living will. Yeah.
So what if this city was to determine that voting, the ability to vote, was that important, where we were going to spend some time really focused on that? And make sure people understood who the candidates were, get information out about the candidates, about charter amendments, whatever's on the ballot, and then really push people to vote.
That'd be great. And you hear it, but you know there are factions in politics that would prefer that not everyone vote.
I understand, but voting is such an important right that we have in this country. We just got to try.
You know, with the mayor's race, I just wanted to ask you this in terms of candidate rehabilitation. You remember Ronnie Stein got in a little trouble and came back and ran. Megan Barry was on the radio, I think, was it last week or something?
Last week.
First time really you heard her and asking if she'd ever get into politics again. I don't remember specifically exactly what the former mayor said, but she didn't rule it out. And certainly she's remaining public and showing up places, as she has every right to do, of course. I'm just wondering, I mean, do you ever rule out the possibility of Megan Barry getting back into politics, just you know her, and seeing what she's doing, and would that be possible in this city? I don't know what you would think of that.
You know, you never rule out anything.
Okay.
I've learned that a long time ago. You never rule anything out. This city is it's a great city. It's also a very friendly city, and it's a forgiving city. Sometimes it takes a little while to forgive, but it's a very forgiving place.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, everybody is subject to making mistakes. You own up to your mistakes, and then you go forward.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Let's take a couple calls for
Sure.
you. We'll go to Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey.
Just a comment to the vice mayor. It seems like Nashville is really growing, but all the money's going downtown. I mean, the big businesses, they're enjoying the heck out of this. But I'm telling you now, I know for a fact that in the suburbs, we're suffering from lack of service because of the influx of people, I suppose. But if you call to complain about public works, codes, or whatever, you're talking about maybe a month or sometime later before anything is done, if anything is done. People won't call you back. They'll say, well, you need to talk to so-and-so. They won't return your calls. So we're slipping bad, and crime is rampant in the city of Nashville, as well as other places. But I can tell you now that I don't know the answer to it, but I know just talking about it, which talk is cheap, that's not going to fix it. And if we don't get control of crime, I mean, it's getting so dangerous now, you know. You don't even pull in a gas station, you don't know you're going to get robbed coming out of the gas station.
He's right. Just yesterday again, and a lot of it, and Joe's talked about this before, the young people. They busted 2 more young people yesterday. One was 18, one was 14, hiding guns and teddy bears. That's what happens when you mix guns and kids.
Yeah.
Guns and teddy bears. I mean, what about that?
Well, Joe made several really good points. I wrote down talk is cheap, and he's right. I mean, you know, enough talk, at some point you have to come up with solutions. Now, the first thing he talked about was money going downtown. that's been the focus of a lot of discussion. That issue has been floating around since the last election. And I think you're seeing it show up even more in this election. You see a lot of talk about that. The idea is to make sure that we're all part of Nashville and that not everything goes downtown, that there's lots of other places that need attention, and it needs to be spread. You just see that most of the activity seems to be going on downtown. That's where the cranes are, that's where the tourists are, that's where all the major events usually are downtown. It gets a tremendous amount of talk. I think we have to step back again and make sure that it's all evenly distributed. In terms of people not calling people back, that's a long time problem. But Nashville Hub is a new tool that Nashville has where you can, if you have a particular problem, you can put it into the system and then you can find out what's being done about it. But that's always subject, particularly people who don't have a computer or access to it, will pick up the phone and call because that's what they're used to doing. And if you're having trouble getting people to call you back, you need to call your council member or call me. And then again, talk is cheap. We have to have the crime stuff.
That's tough. You know, during the campaign, the last campaign, I mean, I know at least some of the mayoral candidates talked about how they were elected, they would fire the police chief. You know, that came up. And, you know, Chief Anderson's been there for a while, and I think like any chief, he has his issues. I think he's also done a good job on a lot of fronts and handling some pretty sticky situations. I don't know, your thought on that? I mean, I don't know, is that fair?
You know, it's difficult being police officer and difficult being the police chief. And somehow we have to work with everybody and try to figure out what are their needs, how do we keep them safe, and then you've got other people going like, okay, well, what about the community oversight board? How does all that work? So you have to come up with kind of an overall solution so there's checks and balances properly in place. The issue of public safety is a serious issue right now. I was looking at some numbers last night. I think homicides are down in Nashville, but not by much compared to last year. Still not acceptable. And this thing about teenagers running around and getting guns, and the number of guns that are being stolen out of people's cars should scare everyone. So how do we deal with it? And I think I would say two things off the top. One is we've got to refocus on education. You have got to get our educational stuff, particularly for young kids, you've got to get that clear and give people opportunities. So education, opportunities for kids that are kind of being left behind, and deal with them pretty early on. I know our the alternative learning centers where kids go if they're let go from a school. Those kids are middle age in terms of like middle school, junior high, high school. Some of these kids are showing tendencies early on, even before then. We don't need to wait. The second part of that whole discussion is something that I'd like to see the council take on, and that is our public safety committee. Our committee structure is not all that good. You know, they spend like 10 minutes going through bills and then they're through. I'd like to give them more time, just the way we do it. The time constraints put a time limitation on what we can do. Trying to figure out if we can move some of the committees so they actually have more time to sit down with the police chief, the FOP, other people who are concerned about it, and see if we can try to come up with some better solutions that we can implement.
Let's take a break on that note. When we come back, Ann, Sarah, and I think James, others, if you're on hold, stay there. The Vice Mayor will take your calls right after this.